something. I like it.
Yay.
Thank you, Miss Hopper. That Howard University education paid off.
Sure did. I've got that third party sign.
Do, 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 do. Okay.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
All right.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
We are live on YouTube.
Michelle, Elaine, official. How are you?
I'm good, Kendall. You know, I always just get so happy to get on this thing with you. I really do. I hope you feel similar.
I
Um,
do. I
but
do.
similarly. But I'm good. I'm good. This I was nervous, to be honest with you, Kendall, when we were watching this. I was because Jordan finally watched it with me.
Okay.
Um I I started last night. I fell asleep. We went to a show last night, and I just felt so like sad and emotional about it because this gal, Natalia Grace, is just a year older than my girl. And I was thinking about what if my girl was in an apartment by herself. And then I woke up this morning. I was like, okay, I gotta finish before I head out. And it was equally difficult. And you know, me and Jordan were talking about what's it like being a parent. What would we do, and what can our babies do? Can they make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? It's actually quite difficult to make a PB&J when you think about the dexterity of trying to get the spread against the bread without breaking whatever. I was nervous that I would get on the podcast and start crying, and maybe I will. I
Mm.
don't know. I just thinking about a little girl in an apartment by herself and not knowing what to do, and then for her to have to be differently abled and to not be able to get everything that she needed. It was really hard to watch, and it was the same reason why I stopped watching the HBO Max series, because it was too painful. And you know, you kept telling me, you even told me it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. It's you know, that what I understand. And so I stopped watching, and I thought this fictionalization would help, but and in a lot of ways it does, because I know these are actors and whatnot, but seeing that girl by herself, I mean, it was very, very hard to get through. And they showed a lot of it because they wanted you to know, you know. So that's what I was nervous about. Um, but obviously this is a safe space. We're with
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
And it's the truth.
Mm.
And how dare we not talk about what the truth of something really is, which again is what the show is doing, because I already was nervous, Kendall, when it said what we said was coming
Yeah.
at the very beginning, as alleged by Natalia Grace,
Yep.
not Michael and Christine. And so
Yep.
right then I did a little
Yep.
I'm simulating putting on a seatbelt.
Yep.
Right then I put on that seatbelt and I was like, I've got to brace myself.
Yeah.
But
You know, I didn't even put a seatbelt on. I just put on when you're on a roller coaster, I was like, put you know, for
and
the
you do the double check, like
put
if they
you.
go by and
Yeah,
they
that's
check everybody's little harness, and you're like, wait, no, check mine. Don't
I know.
don't come check mine.
Check
It's
mine,
a little
please.
flabby. Is that good? Is that bad?
They only act that way at Six Flags, but shout out to Six Flags. Yeah, Michelle, I knew we were in for a ride, and I want to just say that this is actually what the Unpacked podcast is about.
Yeah.
It's about the things that we see in pop culture or in literature or in plays or in art that allow us to come to a space that you and I have mutually created, and with our listeners really get to the finer points of what these things actually represent.
Yeah.
And these things represent different things for each of us because of our vantage points. You're a mother. I'm
Yeah,
not a mother. I don't have any children. You have children, two beautiful children.
thank you.
And it would ring, it would ring so differently to a parent because you're just like imagining your, so all that to say, we are talking about our experiences here, when we would usually be having a conversation about how our weeks went. This episode was so heavy and weighted that
Yeah.
our weeks were kind of colored by watching this because we were already enthralled with the story, but we have been colored by the dexterity and the texture of this episode. So thank you for your vulnerability, and I'm sure as we continue to unpack this episode, we're gonna get into it. Give me the highlight of your week. Just anything,
Oh,
a
um,
highlight.
you know what? To be honest, I think, well, I would say outside of, again, I'm still preparing for Easter. One day I'll stop talking about it because it will have been Easter and he will have rest.
Yeah.
He already did. But that was super rewarding because everybody is just doing their best. Folks aren't getting paid. We're just in the church and we're trying to bring the message forward. So I appreciated that. But last night it was opening night of a Sherlock Holmes show at the Alley Theater. The actors were amazing. There was a roasted filet mignon curry. That was by far.
Did you say curry?
That's what I said. Who puts filet mignon and curry together? First of all, when did you ever see roasted filet mignon? Who is
That's
doing
true
that?
too.
Who's
That's true
roasting
too.
it?
Yeah.
It was filet mignon chunks in a creamy a red curry sauce with slivers of onion and red pepper, honey. And they served it with mashed potatoes.
That's always the mashed potatoes are always where they whipped.
Yes, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. They were whipped and creamy, super
Oh,
whipped and creamy. Oh, they were good.
was
Um,
the bread?
there was bread. The bread, they actually seemed to have the Cheesecake Factory brown bread, but it was a little stale. Because I got
Oh,
excited. I did just what you did. Kendall made his chin drop like in excitement. And I was like, oh, and I peeped it at the end of the line. I told you, I said, I got the Cheesecake Factory brown bread. And then no.
and then no.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
But
all
that
right.
curry was good.
The show was great.
The actors did amazing.
Okay, all right. I've always been very confused about Sherlock Holmes. Like,
I know nothing about Sherlock Holmes.
I know he wears a hat and a trench, and that trench feels like it came from Banana Republic. We're not going to give them another shout out, but I do love a good trench. They have a good trench, but I know he's a detective, and I know that he solves things, and I know he wears a hat, and he's British.
And he has a partner named Watson.
Watson. No, you know what? I did watch. There was an updated. We're not going to go. I am familiar with Watson and Sherlock, and I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's an interesting global trope, that we all are familiar with. So I'm glad that it was good. I'm glad it was good.
Actors did great. Filet Mignon did its part. It was a great night. What about you? What's the highlight of your week, Kendall?
So Kendall loves music, and I'm a vinyl collector, and I got an opportunity to see one of my favorite people in an arena this week, and it's so interesting because arena artists are getting harder to find as we become more global. It's like it's harder to fill up an arena of people who actually like you. It's harder to get everybody to pay attention to one person. But I was able to see one of my favorite artists, Kylie Minogue. She's an Australian pop
Yes.
star. And I think you guys might know her from that song, La La La. La 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 la. Everybody knows that song because it was huge
Yes.
in
Yes.
the early 2000s. And I got a chance to see her at the Capital One Arena here in Washington, D.C. And when I say that she's almost 60, but she put on such an incredible show.
Really?
I shouldn't say but, I should say and she put on an incredible show. I think she's like
Yes.
56.
Wow.
And she was big in the 80s. She had a song called Locomotion. Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. She had that song in the
I
80s. And
didn't know
so
that was one and the same.
that's
Oh
one
my
of the same.
goodness.
That's her. So she's been around for almost 5 decades at this point. She belongs in the category. She is in the categories of the Madonnas and the Janets. She's there. She's like
Yeah.
been around as a female pop icon, and she did so well. But you know what? I fell in love with her because I kind of fell off of her. But I want to just do a little shout out. She created this album a few years ago called Disco.
Yes.
It came out in the during the pandemic, and it was life changing. You know how you can hear an album and it changes your life, it changes your mood, it changes your, everything. It's
Heck yeah.
such a fun, fresh, carefree album. For someone who was, and she was 50 at that time, and to be so, it was such a liberating album for her, I'm sure, and it was liberating for me listening to it. And to talk about disco, when we're 40 years removed, and do it so well, one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. So anybody who's listening, if you ever get an opportunity and want to hear Disco by Kylie Minogue, it's a game changer if you like pop dance music.
I love that. I absolutely love that for you. I saw that on your Insta. I said, look, Kendall at a concert. There's something so rewarding and cathartic about going to a concert. It's like I was bumping you in the shower, I was bumping you in the car, and then I get to go and like be me with you with
Yep.
other people who
Yeah.
also are vibing. It's an experience. And everybody should, I think, should go to a concert.
Everyone should go to their concert. Everyone should. And the other thing that I will say, that when you go to a concert, it's always so interesting to see who else is going to be there. Like, are you, is this who?
And what did you wear? That's my favorite part. What did you wear?
I was giving DC golf. I was doing a Ralph Lauren situation. I had a big chunky chain. I had some uh, what a Doc Martin boots. I was
Yeah,
giving.
you did.
It was really giving. But I will say, we can move on. I think that I think that 97% of the gay men in Washington D.C. were in that arena. I was like, that's the core audience is women and gay men, and I had the time of my life. The low light of that, before we unpack, I got a drink. I love a cocktail at these events.
Well, yes, Henny.
It was Jameson. I got a Jameson and a ginger ale. Do you know how much that drink was, Michelle?
At a concert?
At a concert in
Easily
D.C.
$28, maybe
Yeah,
33.
yeah, $45.
Oh dear God, I'm not thirsty no more.
Let's
I'm not
unpack.
thirsty no more.
Let's
That's
unpack. I
a
drank.
flex in and of itself. You bought a drink? Ooh, girl, bye. Okay, yes, let's unpack. So, as we were saying, um, that was a bit of a sorry about that, y'all. We went on for a moment there. Oh, Kendall was being a good friend and making sure he was taking care of me,
Yeah,
and changing up the situation. I appreciate that. Like I was saying, the big shocker, um, not if you've been listening to this in anticipation of the perspective changing, but the perspective change and it's certain events as alleged by Natalia Grace. And we open up with Natalia with Dooley.
yeah, yeah.
I saw him on The View, by the way, talking about the show, and he spoke again to that perspective thing. Um, but yeah, let's keep it moving. He's asking her, he's got a recorder. He says, I'm recording part number 2, interview with Natalia Grace. It's November 2013. And this is 1.5 years after her being kicked out of the house with Michael and Christine. And he says, well, so what did you think? What was it like living with them? She says, the food was good and they had video games. Like what a child would say. And he said, why did you stop living with them? And she starts to say, I was hiding knives.
Yeah.
Where do you get knives? You keep knives in the kitchen. And as an audience member, Kendall, we start to see that perhaps and probably this girl has been coached to say these things or has heard them so many times that she knows what answer she's supposed to give when
I was
she asked this.
I was looking for the word coach. That's
Coached.
what it was.
Yeah.
Coach. That's what it was.
Yeah. Um, And then she starts to list off some things that you can tell she was told. Well, I pushed mommy against an electric fence and I put poison in her coffee and I wanted to roll them up in a blanket. And he's like, why did you want to do that? And then her answer didn't make sense. And he stops the recording and says, he goes outside. You can hear him talk to Christine, who you can't see. And he says, I thought this is a disaster. I thought you said this, she was ready to talk. And she was like, she is. You want me to go in there and help?
And curtains.
Yeah. And another clue that you, Christine, and or Michael have been coaching this girl to say some things because why she can't say it when you're not in the room?
And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense the way she is saying it, the inflection, and he's
Yeah.
frustrated. So this is our first inclination, really, that have we been hearing what we thought we've been hearing, or have we been hearing it through a lens that's not 100% forthcoming? And so I think this is a wonderful kind of segue, because then we, after this interview of forwarding back, going forward, we go back in time. And we are right there with Natalia. I mean, right there with Natalia, right when she gets dropped off at the house.
Yeah.
Before this, she had been with the family. There had been a lot of back and forth, a lot of kerfuffles, toys thrown, arguments. But now we're here with Natalia, and that door is closed, and she's by herself.
Yeah. And as I was saying before, that's when it got hard for me because we see her for what seems like felt like an eternity looking around like what do I do now? And then first, she's like, Mommy, Daddy, are y'all really leaving me here? And she looks around and you see that she's stocked with canned goods. You know what I said, Kendall? Why are there so many dang vegetables? What 7-year-old is going to prepare a meal full of string green beans, corn? There was a whole packet full of corn. I've really thought about, I was like, who thought about that? There was like farm fresh carrots with the grass still on top. What were they thinking?
What were they thinking? And when they opened up the refrigerator, I saw this huge chunk of ground beef, and I'm like,
What is she gonna do with that?
what is she gonna do with this? And so this is setting us up for the vantage point of seeing life through
Yeah,
a child. And if you don't have children, if you do have children, you are already in that mindset. If you don't have children, I implore you to think about what it would be like if you were 8 years old and trying to do this stuff. And if
yeah.
I was 8 years old, I think I was in the third grade, opening up a can of
Oh, that
anything
got me. Yeah,
would be hard to do.
yeah.
To do.
Yeah. And we haven't even mentioned the fact, Kendall, that because she's differently abled, she had to get on the countertops. And I remember because I remember, it was emotional for me. Jordan said, oh God, when she got on the countertop, when she was standing and opened up those things, because the first thing we were thinking is she is going to fall.
Yeah.
And if she falls, who's going to hear? Who's going to help? How long would she be there? We see her, she's really interested in this one can of peaches that keeps showing up. Bless her heart.
Those peaches with
She wanted
there was
those
a there's a
peaches so
character that
bad.
has the character has sunglasses. I'd be interested too if I was 8 years old. She wants those peaches. There's a
She wanted
character on
those
there.
peaches. And she's eating. I kept thinking the other day, I told my girl, I was saying, are you hungry? I knew it was time to eat. But I said, are you hungry? Yeah, for a snack. And I said, no, baby, you can't just eat snacks every time you're hungry or you'll be eating all the time. And here they are, set this girl up with snacks. She's eating raw ramen noodles. Look here.
Ugh.
Let's move on, Kendall. All
The
that to be
raw
said,
ramen, the raw
that broke my heart.
everything was raw. Everything was not nothing was cooked. Everything was just, and to go really just to lean into that point, you guys, the apartment was not fitted for someone with that type of
At
disability. So
all.
you're having the food conversation and the hygiene conversation and all of the conversations about what it is like to be someone with dwarfism experiencing an apartment that is not modified for you, and you're eight. Keep going.
Beyond the food, Kendall, she couldn't turn on the water. She could not turn on that bathtub at all. And she wanted to and tried several times. Um,
So
so
the
go ahead.
climax of this, though, we come to a head because the
Yeah.
peaches, like in life, the peaches get the best of us in general.
Yeah.
Um, and she's been going through it, making the best, doing the best that she can. And she
Yeah.
finally wants those damn peaches. Excuse my French, but she wants those peaches. And like anyone who's trying to get something open, she finally uses the can opener to,
Mm.
and I know every single person in the world cringed when she took that can opener and was
She took a
trying.
knife, Kendall, remember? Because she couldn't get the can opener to work. She grabbed the knife and was like, hitting it.
And
And
logically, what happens
yes,
when you try to open up a can with a knife?
you're not gonna open it and you will cut yourself. And that's exactly what she did. She's got a huge gash on her hand and is crying and she's like, Mommy. So she goes out of her apartment to try to find some help. She comes across a neighbor's door. I think she knocked Kendall and then also tried to open it. I don't remember, but she definitely opened it. And I definitely thought, well, let me talk to Kendall about unlocked doors in Indiana. But she goes in and I think it was even cracked, and she sees some donuts and then just starts chugging down these donuts. Bless her heart. She's like one after the other. And a lady comes out and says, Hey, what's going on here? Super mild, super calm. And Natalia's like, Oh, I'm sorry. I cut my hand. I think that she went straight to saying she cut her hand, or she was like, What are you doing eating my donuts? I cut my hand and I need to call my mommy.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Uh, a few things about this. One, I people do leave their doors unlocked in Indiana. I'm sure in Texas they do too. I'm sure in parts of the
In
country
parts.
they do. Um, so that's not uncommon, especially in Westfield where she was residing at that moment. And what's really interesting about this is that as you and I continue to talk about this episode,
hmm
the producers and the writers of this series have compiled all of the neighbors that Natalia encountered into this one person. So we're getting a
Yeah.
myriad of
Yeah.
of of
Yeah.
of things from this one person because in the true story, there are neighbors who are suspicious, there are neighbors who are friendly, there are neighbors who are confused. And so we
Yeah.
only have so much time here. We're getting one singular point of view and they've meshed it all into one. I want to go a little bit deeper. The actress who plays this
hmm
neighbor, super interesting. Did you
hmm
recognize her?
I recognized her right away. I did not know what from, but I remembered her being similar to how she was, calm, caring, almost kind of like a mousy voice.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I wonder where it is. But I did recognize her, another character actor.
So, sorry about this. The sirens. I live,
Don't hear them.
it's oh you don't oh my
No.
goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, well that's great.
It's DC.
It's DC, I know. I'm in George Avenue. Um I know her very well because I used to be obsessed with several shows. I don't watch a lot of them anymore, but I was obsessed with Frasier. She played
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Mel
Yes.
in Frasier. She was Frasier's what's Frasier's brother's name? Niles. She was
Nice.
Niles'
Yeah.
fiance for a while, and
Oh
she
my
played this
goodness.
stuck-up character that was so good. But also she's more recently been in Hacks as well. She's been on 6 episodes of Hacks, which is a really good show on HBO Max too. So she's playing a little bit of different character. I've never seen her this dumbed down before. Usually she's playing a woman who's a little more tight. She's usually playing a Karen, if we're being quite honest. So
Okay.
so now this is where we are. The neighbor comes out to find Natalia chowing down on donuts, like you said. And I think the only reason that she didn't flip out is because of Natalia's appearance. She assumed that Natalia was a child. I think that's why we're getting this mild manneredness from her and this wanting to assist her. And Natalia's basically like looking for a friend at this point. She's eating donuts. The neighbor, I think her name is KJ. I think that's what her name is in the show. The neighbor's like, do I need to call the police on you for eating these donuts? And Natalia's like,
hmm
no, no, please, no. And KJ's like, no, everybody, relax. I'm not really going to call the police on you. And Natalia just starts to spill the beans. She's looking for
Mhm.
a friend. She gets a friend. She talks about her family and her life. And she
And she
thinks,
says,
yeah.
I'm 22. And the lady starts, I'm sorry to cut you off, but she starts treating her differently instantaneously. As soon as she says, I'm 22, she goes, oh, well, then why are you going through my donuts? And
Yep.
well, let me here, let's look here, lady. This is not any way to enter the house, which we're going to continue to see people switching instantaneously when she says her age. Um,
But Michelle, can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Would you switch?
Yeah, to some degree I would. However, what this lady did as a very kind neighbor. I mean, even if it's a child, especially here in Houston, which is not where they were, but I'm just thinking of a big city. You see someone in your home, period. Okay, most people in the city would be like, no, where is your mama? You guys to get out. But she's disheveled. She's shoveling food in her mouth. She clearly needs something. And that I love the way they played this part of the lady saw the need more than she saw anything else. And even when
Mm,
Natalia said she was 22, she still saw the need. She still
yeah.
saw my neighbor is in need. But so yeah, I would treat her differently out of respect for her. But in that situation, I still would am like, okay, well, you are still clearly, you know, in need of
Indeed.
something. Uh
Indeed.
yeah,
Yeah. Wait, so I can see you. Can you?
I can hear you, but you're frozen on my end.
Yeah, I see that. Let's oh God, we love technology, don't we? Let's give it a moment.
I know I just kept this happened already once before and I've just kept it moving.
Oh, with me.
Yeah,
Oh,
here
I'm
you
back.
go. Yeah, it's fine.
I'm back. We're back.
Um, so she asked to use the phone, right, Kendall?
Yeah.
She asked to use the phone and she's like, I need to call my mom and tell her I cut my hand or whatever. She's like, okay, well, what's the number? And she's like, I don't know the number. And you don't have a phone? She's like, that's the wrong with you guys today. You don't remember numbers like you should. She calls, they don't pick up, and it goes to voicemail.
Well, the first thing was like, cause I want to go back really, really quickly though, cause she said, oh well, we'll look her up. The neighbor is being very helpful as one would do in this situation to be, a supporting neighbor, a good neighbor. She says, your mom's name is Christine. Is it with a K or with a C? And then Natalia's like, K, and she
Yeah.
kind of gives her a little like, so it's that. Are you really 22? It crossed her mind. It was a flash of a thought. But anyway,
Yeah.
they call and she gets a voicemail, and then Natalia is devastated because the voicemail. What is the voicemail?
Hi, you've reached Christine, Michael, Jake, one child, the other child, and no more chillings.
No,
Right.
you get Michael, Jay, Christine, two children, the milkman, the USPS man, the pizza man, everybody but Natalia, essentially.
And her jaw drops. And
Yeah,
she's like, wait, what?
yeah.
Where? And she's instantly hurt. Um,
Yeah. This episode is taking the air out of us a little
it
bit. It is.
is. I kind of want to fly. And I'm wondering, am I getting the parts mixed up? Because she goes to this lady's house more than once.
Yeah.
But she ends up going back home, and you interject wherever you want, Kendall, but we also know that she's going to go to the library, another painful situation.
Wait, just hold on. Just hold on.
I
Just hold on.
can't deal with all of the pain, Kendall, help me.
It's a lot of
You
pain.
just
So
please just move us along. I'm a
so
co-sign, okay?
so she listens to the voicemail and she's devastated because she hears all of these people basically and it's not her. So she realizes that she is not a part of the good American family. Fast forward after this, she goes home and she's sitting on the couch and she's just alone. And then on TV, she sees her mother. She literally is seeing Christine on TV doing an interview talking about her book, The Spark. And in this moment,
Yeah.
she has an out of body experience. She sees something that doesn't really happen. She
Yeah.
sees Christine say, Natalia, I won't give up on you. It's the wish of things, that you
Yeah.
want to be fulfilled. And Natalia is probably hungry. Though, I wrote down this word and I had to make sure that it was a real word. The whole time, this whole episode, Natalia looks gaunt. Gaunt, gaunt,
Hmm.
emaciated, and just so
Yeah.
she's not lubricated. She's
Not
not
lubricated, sure.
she's none of those things. So she has a vision of Christine. She really sees her on TV though, but
Yes, she
I think
does.
she hears her saying, go find this book, Natalia. I'm not giving up on you. So we
Yeah.
fast forward,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Natalia gets to the library, the Indianapolis Public Library, I'm sure, to find this book called The Spark. And if she don't have a time finding that book in that library, she has a time. But she finds it. She finds the book. She's 8 years old. She doesn't know the process of checking out a book. So she goes to check the book out. She just walks out, and of course, the beepers go off. The beepers. She gets the beepers.
And the people
And
working there aren't super friendly about it. They're
they're not.
like, you know, what's your deal? And I thought this part was kind of strange, actually, which is I thought you were the guy was like, I thought you first of all, working at a working at a public library, you know that you're going to get some traffic that may be unhoused or
Yeah.
like Natalia may be in need of something. I was really, I want to say taken aback, but I was pissed off with how he was acting towards her. 22 or 8. Like, you can't do any better than that.
He was cold and
Yes,
callous.
very cold, callous, rude, aggressive towards her.
Yeah.
Anywho, she can't check out the book, and so they have a little kerfuffle, but she ultimately, runs out with her book.
She, she actually she actually hits him with the book and runs
She
out.
did. I forgot she hit him with she hit him where it hurts
She
with the
hits him
book.
with the book and runs out. So,
And I thought you good survival instincts because she needed that book. She's trying to find her mom.
yeah.
Kudos to her. Okay.
Yeah.
She gets home and she's looking through the book and looking through the book. And just like that voicemail, there is no trace of Natalia. And she gets upset and she starts scratching out the pictures of her family, quote unquote, in the book.
But then she realizes that she makes a mistake and she tries to erase what she scribbled in the book. So this
Mm,
whole thing, before we go any further,
yes.
I think as adults, we are constantly plagued with this idea of who are we? Are we good enough? Am I doing my best? Who loves me? Who do I love? And these are very complex, sophisticated issues for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. To have this type of mental weight dropped on you at this age is, what I'm calling this episode?
What are you calling this episode?
Unpacking the trauma.
I was literally going to say the word trauma just now. I was literally going to say the word trauma because we use trauma so loosely these days. I stubbed my toe. The trauma, this girl, we are watching this girl
And
in
they say,
living trauma that she will never forget.
and people say, don't know if I believe it, I believe some of it, that as adults, the only thing that we are doing is working through the trauma that
Of
we
our
experienced
childhood.
as a for childhood. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and can you imagine?
I'm telling you, even you don't have to be a parent to be around or to have been yourself. And remember from being a child, a very scary moment. We experience scary moments all the time, but just as adults, we know we can organize the degree of danger, the degree of our ability to get ourselves out of the situation. Kids don't have that. I remember specifically, vividly, I don't know exactly where we were, but me, my mom, and my sister were on vacation and we had gone very high up in some building. It might have even been in DC, honestly.
Mm.
And you know those little uh what are those machines called? Like the binoculars where you put in the quarter or
Oh
whatever.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
what those are called, but we were looking at those. At least I thought we were. We were looking through those, and next thing I know, I look left and right, and my mom and my sister are completely gone. And I remember walking around and around this thing. First of all, I'm deathly afraid of heights, so I was already uncomfortable because of that. I went in the gift shop. I looked left and right. I'm looking all around. I've done everything but asked for someone to help me and say, "Hey, I can't find my mom." And it was like I had a frog in my heart. It was like I
Mm.
couldn't even breathe. Where I was like, "Oh my God, I am lost and or left behind." And I was terrified. And I think I might have even been 10. And lo and behold, they come trickling along, laughing, got something. I'm like, "Oh, hey, y'all, remember? I'm your second born child." I don't know if you remembered,
The
but that's
baby
me.
girl, the beloved baby
That's me,
girl.
and we're in a foreign place, and you left me, and I was terrified for what probably was 5 minutes and felt like 25.
Yeah,
So now
yeah.
let's put ourselves in an apartment
Uh,
where on another side of town, you don't know your address, you don't know where you live, your mom and daddy are have gone and told you, "Do you boo?" because we're not doing it for you. This girl is terrified.
so let's get to the do you boo,
Yeah.
right? Because this is where the do you boo puts on Doc Martens, Timberlands. Do you boo gets because we're stepping in it. So she gets the book. She sees for the second time with her own eyes that she's left out of the Barnetts. First was the voicemail, now it's the book. She looks at the pictures in the book and she said, I was there when we opened up Jake's place. I was
Yes.
freaking
Oh,
there.
that was so sad. Yeah.
I was there. And to have that realization. So then she's scribbling it out. She's angry. Then she wants to erase it. And then the power goes off. The power goes off. So now we have multiple levels of neglect. We have the neglect of the physical neglect. We have mental neglect. We have trauma. We have abuse. And she can't take it anymore. She runs to her bed after the lights go off, after she's hungry, after she's been abandoned. She lays in the bed for days and days and days and days
Yep.
and wakes up
Wakes up to, was there a knock on the door?
banging
Banging. Oh, why was he banging on the door? I guess she
like the
wasn't answering.
popo.
Well, I guess she wasn't answering fast enough. She is differently abled, by the way, but
I guess he
banging on
said
the
he
door,
pays the rent, so he's like, open this door.
come open the door. Ends up opening it anyway. I wrote, why was he banging if he had the key, child? That's what I wrote
Mm.
down. He comes in saying, it's a pigsty. I know you've been telling people at the library to call CPS. And she's like, no, I didn't. She's following him around, just hoping maybe to get a hug, maybe for you to take me home. She just wants her chance to say, I can't, I don't want to be here. And then he's like, why does it smell? She's like, well, the lights turned off, the refrigerator's on. He gets on the phone. The term code switching came to mind. It doesn't apply, but it was a new Michael on that phone. Yeah, the one from when he was telling his version of the story. Yeah, no, we are behind. Yeah, happy to pay those late fees. Da 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 da. We just need to get it back on. Oh, and there it is. Thank you so much. Super sweet. As soon as he gets off. Okay, Natalia.
Do you know what that was though? We talked about this. I don't know if you guys have it in the South. I think you guys have a version of it. It's that Midwest civility. I don't think that
Mm,
it exists in the South. I think in the South you guys have Southern hospitality, which is the same. Um, in the Midwest, there's a type of civility that is kind of we're all indoctrinated into to where it's like that's the voice you hear. It's the voice of a civil, sane person with no issues and no problems, and we're all happy and everything
yeah,
is fine.
yeah,
Meanwhile, his adopted daughter has not had she's had no power. She can't. She cut her hand on peaches. He hasn't seen her, and he believes she's a scammer. But he goes into that voice. That's called Midwest civility.
yeah, yeah. There it is. He's
So
He's cold to her. He's mean to her. Um,
I
they're
mean, really mean though.
really mean. Yeah. What I was thinking about Kendall is they give you a glimpse, not that he's a victim in any way, though the real Michael Barnett would want you to think differently. They give you
Yeah,
some
he
little
would.
nuggets of, well, Christine is away. Like you can tell that not everything is happy at home yet, but also you know what she would say about this. You know what your mom would say about this, Natalia. Da-da-da. Well, no, this wouldn't be like this if you would have just not been this way. And when he does that, when she's begging him to, Daddy, 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 please take me, you see he's having a real struggle. He, I get the sense that he wanted that hug. He wants to have a relationship with her, but he can't
But
because
he wants his family more.
this, and that's what I wrote down. Yes, 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 and yes. He wants his family more, which is why she's there now because he chose Christine. At first, he chose her, but now he chose Christine when it started getting hard. He cannot imagine leaving his family of old for this little girl. And his wife has given him an ultimatum, and it is what a TI is. So he's built up this wall, which is why
Yeah.
I say they're trying to show us that he himself was also under abuse or coerced, I should say, by Christine. But that's a grown man.
But you know
That's a
what's
grown man.
nasty? You know what's really nasty about this?
What?
This
The whole thing.
grown man who has children, who adopted a child, who was a manager at Circuit City. You know, that's puts you at the top of the charts. And he goes out in the middle of her meltdown, gets a camera, and videos all of the things that they've done for her. That's why my and that's real, actually. That's a real thing because there's footage of him doing that to Natalia. So this is a real thing that they actually did. He goes back into the house, shows all the food, all the things that they've done, all the body wash that was on sale at CVS for 99 cents that they bought for her. And then he says, "Aren't you okay, Natalia? Aren't you? Aren't you? Aren't
Aren't
you?"
you?
So my problem with this is that he whatever the victim molecule of the victim that he is in the moment, when you become the oppressor in that situation, you are no
Which he
longer a
was.
victim. You are now imparting hurt
Yeah.
to other people. And so now you are no longer a victim. And so regardless of whatever anybody would say, in my opinion, he can't be absolved from the sins of Christine. He's in the
Yeah.
bed that they've made together.
It was an yes, yes, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And that's why I've said they're trying to make us think maybe he's a victim. He's not. He's a grown man. And he has become the oppressor. And I felt like that was interesting, Kendall, that he walked out as though he was leaving and then came right back in recording as though he was trying to make it seem like this is my first arrival here.
Yeah.
And
And
I didn't stage
she
anything.
said that. She
Yes, she
said like
did.
she did. She was like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" Because that's actually what an 8-year-old would say to you. Like,
You
what are you
mean like 5 minutes ago when you first came in and asked me this? Yeah. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Um,
Woo!
he
So
leaves.
no, he leaves, but before he leaves, he quotes Christine and he tells her to get her act together. And so now the next things that we are seeing are the montage of Natalia, an 8-year-old girl trying to get her act together. What does that look like? What
She
does an
played it very
8-year-old
well.
what does that what does it look like as an 8-year-old to do your eights right? What does that look like?
What's funny is I've told my children that, and they're 4 and 6.
Get her act together.
You need to get your act together.
What act? Are they going on tour? What
And they look
act?
at you like that too. I'm trying to figure out what it is that you want, but I don't know what you mean other than that you're upset.
Other than that, you're upset. So now we go into a montage of Natalia cleaning up,
Cleaning very well.
picking up the puzzle pieces, taking out the trash. She can't even reach the trash. She's taking out the trash.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. But she's getting her act together. And at the end of that, she puts on lipstick. Where the excuse my this is I said damn earlier. Where the hell I'm gonna keep it really
I was
PG
about to say when we go on
13.
YouTube, we say not made for kids when I post. So, but no, keep it clean. You're from the Midwest. Keep it clean. I just want you to say no. I marked it not made for kids. So
Where the beep? Do you get lipstick from? Who gave her that lipstick? Who?
it occurred to me that it was something that maybe she packed. First of all, I can't remember. Did it look like kitty lipstick, or did it look like a L'Oreal something another? I can't
Maybe she's
remember. I mean,
born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. I thought it was a brand.
it might have been. I just remember the color seemed like bright pink or something, but it
It
could
was
have been like
mauve. It was
it was
mauve.
mauve, darling. Maybe she packed it in her go bag when they told her you guys to go, and she was like, "Well, maybe I'll take this."
Saying that she took it from Christine. Like I think this is still ultra because when I get really like conspiracy theory, I'm very much like this is a part of the sinister plot to make her older than what she is. I think they packed that. I think
Oh, Kendall, I didn't even think of that. Take your lipstick for when you go apply for a job because they really wanted her to get a job, Joe. I didn't even think that. Well, she's gonna need it.
so. She puts on this lipstick mauve and she goes across the street to ask her neighbor to use the phone again because she doesn't have a phone. But this is when things really start to like rev up. Because she goes to actually use the phone and she realizes that when, she walks in the door, she meets KJ. KJ has a young boy with her. We'll get to that in a moment. But she goes to use the phone and the number has changed. This whole thing is like people pulling. This episode is like I want to be in a rug shop, a Persian rug shop, because this whole episode is people pulling the rug from underneath her.
I'm laughing.
They're pulling the rug. Have you ever had the rug pulled from under you before? I'm like, it is shocking. And everywhere she turns, they're pulling the rug. They're pulling the rug. They're pulling the rug. So she meets she's there. The number has changed, and she meets her neighbor's
Grandson.
grandson. His name is Keaton. I like that name, Keaton. And at this point, the neighbor has worked a double. She's tired, and she basically leaves these two kids to their devices. She's like, "I'm tired. I'll be back up when I think she said like the Wheel of Fortune is on or something." But
Dancing with the Stars.
Keaton Dancing with the Stars. You're right. Um, Keaton is young, but Keaton is mischievous because he's like down for whatever. And you can, from their conversation, you can hear that Keaton is 8 years old, but he's also lived a life. I want to stop really right here real quick because an 8 year old who has lived a life is somewhat different from an 8 year old who hasn't lived a life. Keaton goes on to say that his mother doesn't have a car, he knows how to use the bus. Where do you live? Let's go to your house. I'm down for the get down. Natalia is down too. She's like, I have a house. We can go to her house. Let's have fun. He says, as long as we're back before Dancing with the Stars and my Nana gets up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They get on the bus. Keaton knows exactly how to ride the bus. He swipes that card twice. The bus driver calls them children because there are children, and they sit down on the bus and they begin to do very childrenly things. They play a game called Mush, and they basically prick the neck of one of the passengers, and the passenger flips out. But again, this was Keaton's idea. So Keaton is a bit of a ringleader here, and Keaton has lived a life. And he's kind of leading Natalia on because Natalia is extremely more childlike than I've ever seen her in any of these episodes.
Yes.
Very childlike, very naive, very, world weary. He's egging her on. This is where things get interesting. They play another game after they play Mush. Do you remember the game that they played?
Truth, two truths and a lie. And she's like, I am allergic to bananas. I'm not 22 and something else that was true. And he was like, that's not how the game works because you already know your age. My grandmother told me. She's like, no, it's actually not true that I'm allergic to bananas. And they just skip on off the bus. Um,
So Michelle, do you think she's playing a game this whole time?
no, I think she felt safe to tell Keaton, someone who is actually her age,
Wow.
because the adults seem to not have any of their ish together because they've dropped me off to live at an apartment and got paperwork to say I'm 22. I probably can trust this little boy who's the first person who's really trying to help her, or at least, his grandmother is. So maybe this is a family that she can trust. The grandmother let you use the phone, let you eat the donuts, and now he's like, I'll take you to where you want to go. So yeah, I'm 8, and I'll tell you, fellow 8-year-old, I'm actually not 22. I
Yep.
think it was a trusting moment for her.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're finally, they're going to Natalia's house and they get off of the bus, And when they get off the bus, Natalia seems confused and just like, where am I? What's going on? And she takes something out of her pocket, which I think is her dress, and Keaton flips out.
Yes, he says this is, and I'll get him reversed, but he was like, that says South whatever street. This is North, you bleepity bleep bleep. He says something he name calls her, and
He did.
we are taken aback. Like, I think he said things like stupid or an idiot, and it was like night and day. And he's hungry, talking about snacks that she promised. So they get back on the bus, and you get this, and you can see it's starting, night is falling. They get back on the bus, and you think that they're heading back to whatever, but back to where they came from. But she says, wait, that's my house. Stop right here. They get off of the bus. They're walking in her neighborhood. He was like, wait, are you kidding me? This is your house? The one that has the for sale sign on it? And she's like, wait, what? We're not selling the house. As that happens, as they realize that, Val comes out of the house, who's selling.
The best friend who's a realtor.
The best friend realtor comes out, and she's like, wait, what? What are you doing here? And tell us what happens, Kendall. No, you got nothing because I
Another
was going to.
another Persian rug. I
Oh dear God.
swear. And this was one of the biggest rugs because when you have a friend who wants to go to bat for you, Val had an axe to grind. So the moment that
Did.
she saw Natalia, she was like, "What are you doing here?
What are you doing here?
Why are you here?" And then Natalia's being Natalia. I'm here because my mommy and my daddy. Where's Michael? Where's Christine? They're probably in Canada by now. What do you want? Why are you here? I want to see my family.
Don't
Nope.
forget Val's super care for the little boy that she's never met, who is
Oh
quite
no,
the
we're getting there.
fluid.
We're getting
Ooh,
there. She is reading Natalia from the good book. The good book of Val, because she's over it and she's pissed.
yeah.
And she calls her a liar. She says you are a liar, and you lied about your age, you lied about everything else. And then she notices Keaton, who's visibly he doesn't have dwarfism. He is a child who we recognize as a quote unquote normal looking child. And she says, "What are you doing with the child? What are you doing with him?" Um, and then Keaton's pissed because Keaton's worldly at this point. Remind you, Keaton's worldly and he knows a liar because he's been through some things. And he said, she lied to me. She said that there would be snacks. She said that there would be this. She said there would be that. And there's none of it. Keaton turns on her. So she's getting the double whammy by Keaton and Val.
Yeah.
And Val basically says, forget about you. I'm going to make sure that you get home, little boy, safely. They hop in Val's Hummer Range Rover, some nice car.
I think it was a G-Wagon.
It was what it was a nice car,
Yeah.
and they go back to their place. Because he's got to get home before Dancing with the Stars, and that's when KJ, the neighbor, KJ, I think her name is, um, walks up to this car and she flips out.
she's sitting there with police around. She's obviously called the authorities for help to find her grandson, and the neighbors are out like, oh, where's the little boy? The boy gets out of the car. She's hugging him as a grandmother would if her grandchild was missing. And she comes up to Natalia and it's like, what did you do? What were you thinking? You sick bleep.
She cursed at her. That's the
And
second time she got cursed at in this episode, by the way.
by this same family. Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That was, again, another night and day. It made me think, what's going on with this family?
Yeah.
One minute you welcome her, the next minute she's a sick bleep. Like,
Anyway, and right after this, we go into a scene where Natalia is praying. She's praying
yes, she
that
is.
God makes her to be who they want her to be.
Yeah.
And it
Good for
reminds
her.
me of the bluest eye in that way.
Mm,
Of like,
yeah.
how many times have we prayed to God to be something that for other people? But in
Mm,
reality, it's like not the truth of who we are. And again, she's 8 years old, so she doesn't know any better. But like the truth of who we are is so much more powerful than the illusion that other people want us to be. It just in that moment, it was so prevalent. I'm like, oh, this is the bluest eye. Make me, make
yeah.
me.
But that's when you pray that prayer, Kendall, more desperately because you haven't had any life things happen to affirm who you are. Well, especially when you're in an abandoned position. But you just want to be like your friend. You just want to give what they want. And in her particular situation, her identity, bless her heart, was attached to
The family.
the family. Whether or not she was going to have a family
Yeah.
was told to her was based on, I have a quote here when she was going through the montage cleaning. When Christine says, "You have to earn our love," she's repeating
Oh,
what Christine says. So here she is just trying to navigate, just trying to exist. She's being called a sick F, an idiot, a stupid, you're harming the little boy, all of this. And she's like so confused that surely God could just make her be whatever it is she needs to be so that she could be loved. That was the other thing. It wasn't even that she wanted to go, she wanted a comfy bed, she wanted a meal, she wanted love. And that's another thing I thought about throughout this is abused people, adults and children alike, go back to they still want the love from their abuser.
and the
They,
validation.
and the validation, they still want all of that. And so she just kept hoping that if they came back that she could make it right. And
Real quick, before they got back to the house, though, before she was praying and before she was doing all that, I want to go back to something that Val said, and we can and pop forward real quick. Val said something that I really want to recognize, and Val, the better than Val best friend, uh, real estate agent said Christine was entirely too Christian for you.
yes, she said to you. She sure did. She sure did.
And I want to just like take a moment, not even a moment, but just to say that there is this image that Christine has purported that people have bought, that a lot of people are in the world put these images up, and it's under a veil of some type of religion, whatever it be, Christianity, whatever it is that people do. But at the core, these people are not Christians. At the core, that's not what Christianity looks like. Christianity looks like, and it's just really interesting to. No one could ever be too Christian for anyone. That's an oxymoron within
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
she was conflating one thing and just mistaken and using the term wrong
yeah,
and what Christianity really is. It was just all backwards. People like that can get rooted, stuck. I mean, it's our politics, stuck on one verse or two verses. Help the orphans, help the poor. And if she did that and the poor ended up being what she didn't think, then now she can act like whatever. It doesn't matter. Yes, that was That certainly I think was purposefully in there, Kendall.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
glad.
I just wanted to, so we get Natalia praying and trying to, get her. Shout out to Imogen because she's acting her pants off here.
She
She's
really
acting her
is.
pants
She's
off.
doing this whole thing.
I see an Emmy in her future. Um but you know, at this point, after Natalia has prayed, she's gone to sleep and she wakes up and she sees Christine.
Christine. And, first off, she looks heavenly with the lighting. And then as Natalia, kind of flickers her eyes a little bit more to make sure she's really seeing what she's seeing that, yeah, mommy, that halo kind of goes away. And we see
And
the true,
it's not the Beyonce halo, it's a different kind of
it's
halo.
not that one. We see the true Christine. And she just wants her mommy.
But her
And
mother has different plans for her.
she does.
Because her mother says, snap out of it. You got kicked out of here. We're driving you further away. And on top of that, you need to get your GED and you need to stop living off of us.
Yeah.
Shatter, shatter, shatter. Rug, rug, rug.
They end up at a place we can't fully see the neighborhood, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't get a full grasp of it, but I do see some extremely steep stairs that would be difficult for anybody who was not in tip-top shape. People all of the time don't want to go to an apartment where there's only stairs, whether they're in good shape or not. So now we have this 8-year-old girl with dwarfism, fresh off of foot and hip surgery.
Yep.
Hasn't had her walker this entire time. So you imagine the pain that's been built up in this poor girl's bones and body.
Yeah.
They're going up these stairs. Christine is walking ahead and says, "Look, this is the last time I'm going to pick up the luggage for you." Walks ahead of her with the luggage. They get into the place, and Christine is grilling her on, I know you did this and I know you did that. And you tried, again, she's reading that script that Natalia has become familiar with. You tried to poison us. You tried to wrap our boys in a blanket. Do you remember that? And Natalia has trouble again with that blanket story.
Yep.
And Christine spills it out for her. I don't know if you remember correctly, Kendall, but it was something like you wanted to wrap my boys in a blanket and bury them in the
And
back.
bury them. And bury
Yeah,
them.
and bury them. And she's like, okay, so Natalia's like, yes, no, you're right. Whatever you say, I'll do whatever you want because she just wants to go home. She just wants
Yeah.
to be with her family. And she's like, I don't want you to say whatever I want. I want you to tell the truth, Natalia. She's like, yeah, I've been lashing out. I've been doing this, that, and the third. I'll do whatever you want. And Christine looks at her with disgust and says, I wish I could believe that.
Yeah.
She turns away from Natalia, picks up her keys, heads to the door, but she doesn't stop. I mean, she doesn't leave without stopping to put a hand behind this girl's head and spray mace directly into her eyes, maybe an inch away from this girl's eyes.
And then says, I'm not your mommy.
I'm not your mommy, and walks out. So she literally wanted to spank her in some way before she left. And I still haven't processed that. Other than just thinking of how painful people say mace is.
Yeah.
My only reference is of word of mouth, and then like on Walmart on what Black Friday, they say people will spray mace to get the thing, and so that whoever comes down the aisle, that means people from feet away are impacted, burning, their eyes burning. She sprayed it directly into this girl's eyes. Could have irreparably harmed her eyesight. And that was the first time I wrote in all caps, clear abuse, because we're not led to believe that this is her first time.
No.
We're in that moment, Kendall, we understand that in this episode, from Natalia's point of perspective, she has been abused by this woman. Yes, it was obvious by where they left her, but you get the sense that previously she has been physically harmed. She has been physically harmed by this woman, and this mace attack was not the first time.
Nasty.
It was so nasty. And sadly, Ellen Pompeo played it perfectly.
Yeah.
She played it
Nasty.
absolutely perfectly.
And it goes back to that thing when people think that they're in the right and they're holier than thou or whatever it is. Holier than thou, they have a leg to stand on, whether it's an academic leg, a religious leg, any kind of leg. People feel so justified in their nasty behavior that is like not okay, no matter what anybody does to you. Macing someone and walking off is like, what are you talking about?
Hmm.
So now we get Christine walking out, and then we see Natalia again
Hmm.
trying to pull herself up by her bootstraps, her 8 year old bootstraps. I don't even know if 8 year olds wear boots, saddle shoes. And she's taking the GED test. And it's so interesting because, I mentioned earlier, the bluest eye. And
Hmm.
this question that we're seeing Natalia take to try to get her GED is about the invisible man, the invisible man.
Yes.
And it says, yada, 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 the invisible man. Tell us who you are.
Yeah.
You need this story to tell us who you are.
Yeah, I actually rewound that a few times, Kendall, because I wanted to get it. I still didn't get all of it, but it's one of those writing prompts when they're referencing a book, as you said, in Invisible Man. And I think the Invisible Man says, "When I discover who I am, I'll be free. With that in mind, tell us who you are."
Mm. Oof.
And that's the question of what this whole thing is, this whole series, this whole case, this whole the phenomenon is not the word. This whole ordeal is about who is Natalia Grace. And we see Natalia pondering this, seriously pondering this. And we hear Christine say in her
Mm.
most abusive and oppressive nature, "No one is going to believe you, Natalia." And Natalia is faced with the decision of writing down the truth, which is that she has no memory other than this 8 years that she's been living on this earth. Or is she going to write down what she's been told to write down? I'm 22 and I have done some horrible things to this family that has adopted me. And it was so clear to me that the abuse is also mental, as all abuse is, that she's so confused and so scared to get it wrong that she can't ask for help. Just like you think about battered women, everybody always says, "Well, why didn't you go? Why didn't you just?" She's terrified and she still wants to be with that family. So it's like, if I do the right thing, they'll get me, they'll come and get me. But if she does the right thing, they're not coming to get her because then that means she's 22 and she's been so coerced. It's just awful.
Two things. This is the second time they played this song, and I want to give a shout out to Robin because they played the song earlier. The song is called "Dancing on My Own." They play it when she's having the cleaning montage, and then they play it again, a different version, an a cappella version of her at the very end, where she's having this like kind of out of body experience about who am I really as a child. So shout out to the music producer here because they played one of a classic, cut by the Swedish pop star Robin called "Dancing on My Own." Two different versions. The second version though is not by Robin; it's by someone else.
Isn't that second version a Kids Bop version, Kendall?
It's some. You know what's
There's
so
babies singing it.
funny? It has to be a kid's version because Robin says like a curse word in her version, and I was listening to that, and they omit the curse word. It's like
Yeah,
hell or damn or something, and I'm like, who's singing this? A child? And I think you're right. I
it's
think
Kids
it's a
Bop.
wow. Did you just pick up on that?
I did. I didn't even clock the song really the first time when you did, but when I heard this, I said, "Oh my gosh, that's Kids Bop." They're showing she's a kid. This is what she would be
Wow.
hearing.
Wow. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Robin. That is off her album called Body Talk. Um, and I called it. automatically, but I didn't catch that second version. And I'm like, why does it sound so different? So drastically different because Robin has she has an acoustic version of that song, but they chose to go with this kids bop version, which is
Mm.
so telling.
Mhm.
The other thing I wanted to touch on, Michelle, that there was a stain on the floor.
Yes, thank you. And she said something about Hercules when she saw it. What was that about?
What was that about? And she saw him twice, but
The only thing I can gather is that maybe they did a version. They caught some scenes of where she had a pet with her or
but
something.
what was the name of the pet that she, you know, the her brother's
The
pet?
cow. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the cow. Child Daisy.
Yeah. There was something, and then because at first when they
Bessie.
showed it, I thought it was a little. She had an accident. I thought it was a little pee pee stain, but then they showed it twice, and it was in the floor, and I'm like, "What is that? Another, trick by the writers to show us that we're dealing with a child, and she's imagining a imaginary friend."
Yeah. Could be. I didn't understand that either. Because I remember her saying Hercules, like, so it could have been. It was rough, Kendall, as I said from the very beginning. It was rough. I knew that unpacking it was going to be heavy. Um, oh dear God.
We have a few more episodes to go, Michelle. We're on episode 5. There's 8 episodes of this
Yeah.
season, and we are committed to our friends and our friendship to unpack together.
Yes, we will. We will do this. It will be done.
Okay. All right. So, is there any last words you want to leave us with, Michelle? Just from this episode, anything you just want to leave us with? Because this really, I feel that this really kind of affected you. Is there anything?
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace towards men. That's what I got. I was thinking of anything inspirational, and that just came to mind.
Okay. We accept it.
Hmm.
Accept it. I accept it and I respect it and I agree with it. And I think I will say that the world needs a little more kindness and if more people would have listened to that child, she probably wouldn't have been in that situation. But I think we have to be very mindful of, especially in this day and age, not getting caught in group think. This was a big pot of group think. And the individualism that we all have as individuals will be the saving grace of other individuals.
You
And
better
that's what
preach, Kendall.
I walked away with.
That's a class at the university, unpacking the groupthink, because the groupthink has got America in a chokehold in many different arenas right now, and it's happening with children. I think that's what we're going to learn about this in general. Is this isn't an isolated thing. Yes, most adopted folks aren't going to have dwarfism, but the child was powerless and she was silenced. And the adults did her wrong. And in their power position, they created this narrative of groupthink. Like you said, they created the narrative for the groupthink and got everybody to sign the petition to this girl's downfall. We're both going to keep ending with saying something else and then on top of the other. But
Yeah,
I
no, I
that's
think we're
that's
unpacked.
really insightful, that I think that group think is connected to what all the actors are saying in their interviews, which is it's about perspective. And we just hop on to a perspective because someone makes a video about it and says, this is what this is. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you saw that video about what's the name? Yeah, then that's what I think. No, that's what I think. None of y'all even took the moment to look it up and
Take
see
the
what it
moment.
was. You just went with the
Investigate.
first thing that you saw.
Investigate. Investigate.
Dang.
Investigate. Please investigate. You might see something different. You might hear something different, but it's so easy just to say, did you hear that girl down the street is a what a da 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 da?
Or look
Yeah,
at
I
that
heard.
girl. I made my decision already. I made my judgment on her already because I looked. Yeah, no, yeah, that's what that is. Because look, you don't know nothing about that girl. What you eating on?
The chocolate. And
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
tell you a little secret before we go. I wish that this was Ferrero Rocher.
Yeah.
It ain't. They didn't have it. But I'll make do with Lent. It's Easter.
Okay, we need to get off this podcast. Good night.
Until
Good
next
day.
time.
Until